Hey, I'm Marcus.
And I'm Nick.
We are working class nerds.
Cue the intro. That's right. We are Working Class Nerds, the podcast that gives you no information about your favorite information.
Today is Thursday, October 22nd, 2020, and you can find this I Definitely Would Have Got Killed by Darth Vader podcast on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and now Spotify. When am I going to change that? Find it. Wait, you can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts. See, that sounds terrible. But you can watch me play games at twitch.tv/MarcusB814. You can also find the both of us on Twitter. I am at MarcusB814.
And I'm at Nick Vern. That's NickVern. In this week's episode, we're taking a trip into a different galaxy, to the final frontier, if you will, with Grebog and Nikodas from Fleet Action Report, a vodcast all about Star Trek Online. So welcome to the show, both of you, and tell us what you've been up to for these past few weeks.
Well, hello, and thanks for having us. We're glad to be here. The past couple weeks have been busy. I've been in the video game world. It's been busy. Real life's been busy as well, but that's a different story. Primarily in STO, shorthand for Star Trek Online.
Thank you.
I've been working on getting my reputations up, which is kind of a ongoing thing. They like to add reputations to that. I think we're currently at 13. I've also been working on crafting, gearing up, and like all MMOs, gearing up is kind of a forever ongoing process. I've also been getting back into World of Warcraft, which just recently had a new patch, completely changed the way you level in that game. And I've been playing Star Wars Squadrons, which is an excellent game, especially since you guys like Star Wars. Good game.
What do you think of it?
Well, it's a good game. It's got its challenging moments. There's no when it matches you with other players. There's no soft version of it. You can get matched against players that are your level, far above your level, far below your level. It's just kind of a random setup the way it goes.
Yeah, so there's no matchmaking. It's basically you get in the queue, you're queuing with whoever is playing the game. Whoever the first 8 people are that are available for a game, they're putting you in. There's no matchmaking.
That's correct, yes. Saying there's no matchmaking, I mean, it will like form a team and set you up with random people. So in that sense, there's matchmaking. But as far as like matching skill level, no, they don't do it. And as I understand it, the developers intended it that way.
Yeah, that's a big criticism on the opposite end of the spectrum for Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, that there's too much skill-based matchmaking, so you always have to try your absolute hardest in each game to be, decently successful. So I'd imagine that being a conscious decision in the opposite direction for Star Wars Squadrons kind of makes sense to keep everything relatively lighthearted for folks.
And it works. It can be very frustrating sometimes if you just get a team that's like out-leveled you and skills far above yours and you just get crushed. But on the other hand, the opposite can be true too. So the only other thing that I've really been focused on recently is Ghost of Tsushima, which is an excellent game. Highly recommended.
I was just going to ask that.
I love it. It's a great game. I'm just about finished with it. I got sidetracked by Squadrons, so at some point in time I'll get on there and finish the story.
What speaking of that game, would you say it's a linear based sandbox, a true sandbox, or just a straight up action RPG?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't really have a direct answer for you. The best thing I can tell you is if you've played Assassin's Creed, it's very similar to that. So the story is linear, but like how you go through the story and how you complete, like what order you complete the side quest, if you complete the side quest, entirely up to you.
Yeah, so it's a linear based sandbox.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, so I'll give the example. So Breath of the Wild or the new Genshin Impact, those are pretty much straight up sandboxes they say there's these points that you need to make it to. How go? There's no middle quests at all. You can pick up quests as you go, but it's not. There's nothing telling you, hey, you have to go to this point.
I
It's
see what
just
you're saying.
it's saying pick which way you want to go and go do it. It's that like it's a true sandbox game where it's just you go do whatever you want. You could start the game and never finish it because you're too busy just cooking or fishing or exploring.
Then yes, by your description, a linear sandbox would fit Ghost of Tsushima.
Have you ever played? Did you ever play through Red Dead Redemption's storyline?
That's one I have never gotten into. I have a lot of friends that have played it, but I've never picked it up.
Oh, I could not, especially Red Dead Redemption 2. I could not recommend it highly enough. That's sort of what I think of when I think of like a linear story in a sandbox sort of universe where you can go wherever you want on the map, but all of the story elements sort of progress you through each region in a sequence, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it from some friends of mine, some coworkers of mine. They get a big kick out of it, but I've never picked it up. Oh, and to get Grebog involved here, there is another game that a third friend of ours got us involved in recently that I believe Grebog just played for the first time last night, and that's Deep Rock Galactic.
Dwarfs in space.
Yes, indeed. Complete with booze.
That sounds awesome.
It's a kind of a shooter mining sim. So you have your character. There are 4 classes you can choose from, and there's a lot of customization. But then you go on these mining missions. You go to collect resources, and then while you're digging around collecting resources, you get attacked by these bugs. And you have to fight them off and then still collect resources during the whole process. And then there's a timer. Once you've completed all your goals, you have to get back to your launch pod before the timer expires. So that's been a fun game too.
That sounds interesting.
I couldn't do it. The whole mining thing, I would get lost. I tried to play RimWorld, and that's like a colony sim.
Yeah.
I just got lost. I had direction from a friend, and I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't.
Getting
Grebog.
to your pod, getting back to your pod to get out. Fortunately, you have a mule thing that will drop basically road flares along the path to show you where it's because it'll once you've called the pod, it's and the pod's down, it starts running towards it, and you essentially you have to follow the beacons to get back out. So it's not as bad because it gives you that path to follow.
Huh.
If you can keep up with it. I mean, Molly doesn't wait for anyone.
Yeah, but those flares are like the glow stick things on a stick are still there for you to follow.
True.
That's interesting. So besides playing mining dwarves in space, Greybog, what else have you been up to this past few weeks?
Well, let's see. Last few weeks, I do a lot of D&D. I try to kill my players, apparently. I was doing quite well for a couple weeks in a row. I think I killed like half of them over in the various games.
You killed all of us, just not all at the same time.
That's too funny.
I presented a challenge, and you guys weren't looking in the right way at first. So, but yeah, they figured it out. They got through it. I play World of Warcraft. I mainly play a Blood DK because, well, if you're going to go DK, you got to go Blood. And I have a control problem when I don't tank. I like to be the one that tanks. I used to try to DPS back in the day, but I just... everyone finds out, hey, you can tank, and so I do.
I found that myself. So before the latest expansion for SOTOR came out, I was a Marauder DPS, which is basically a dual wielding DPS. And when 6.0, excuse me, I was burping away. When 6.0 came out, the new expansion, my raid team we always seemed to always lose a tank for whatever the reason was. So I said, come 6.0, I'm switching to a tank, and I've been tanking since October, and I actually really like it. It has its challenges in the harder modes because I haven't done like the nightmare level stuff, and I'm working on it now. And it's hard because the mechanics are real, and if you don't hit your cooldowns at the right time or all of those things that keep you extra alive, you'll die. And it weighs on you when you're a new tank. But I do love it because all you have to do is worry about holding threat. You don't need to hit the boss hard. You don't need to do anything. You just need to make sure you keep the boss's attention and drag the boss where the boss needs to go. And
Um,
and and I feel like I'm a control freak, so it allows me to kind of be in control even when I'm out of control.
I get that because, like, when I was DPS, I would always get frustrated with the tanks putting the bosses in bad spots or not paying attention that the back of the boss was standing in the poo. And I'm like, I can't DPS if you have him standing there. And so I kind of took control and tank now. And I try to be aware of things. I have some DPS friends that will like, hey, the space must be, the poo must be a little bit bigger than what you can see, and I'm like, okay, I'll be more aware of that. And so I try to make sure that I do my job. I know when I started, I also used to stress way out on things. I would get adrenaline rushes when I first started tanking. Now, not I don't. Anymore being a blood DK, I when things get easy, I put a new challenge for myself. It is, how high can I get myself healing? Can I pass healers? And I do many times.
Well, that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
I
I
I I can understand.
I also have been working on a hunter because um the group I run with for well, they have a second team, and apparently I'm going to lead that team, so I'm going to run a hunter with them because then I can, I don't know, roll my fingers across the keyboard and do damage. Not really stress out, but I can make sure I get the mechanics right for the rest of the team. It's been a while since I've raid led, whatever. But
Yep.
yeah, and then obviously I play Star Trek Online, and I have characters on Fed and KDF. KDF, for you don't know, is Klingon Defense Force. So
And that's new to the game, correct?
no, KDF has been in since the beginning. I'm pretty sure. I didn't start playing it back in the beginning. Nikodas actually did, but
I did.
we didn't have a fleet until more recently for AIE. We wanted to focus Federation, and so we did. But now we have added we had a bunch of people like, hey, I have this I'd like to have a KDF fleet, but most fleets want you to be active. And we're like, well, as long as everyone understands, Federation fleet will be the primary and where probably people are going to be the most active, yeah. So we created a KDF fleet, and people have a place to put their KDF tunes now. But let's see, what else? Squadrons, I've shot people down in that. I'm not that great in it. I did find my joystick, so I can actually use that to fly around. That has helped immensely. I play all kinds of games. I do all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, yeah. I think that's most of my week or weeks.
Well, that's pretty sweet.
And Nick, tell me you've been gaming.
Well, I have not been gaming. I've been gaming with paintball. I played a whole tournament once, but no. So quick backstory to me working a whole bunch of extra shifts. We are short staffed in the emergency department. At my position because of pretty substantial number of people left for other jobs or different positions entirely, or went to nursing school, or like several people just started nursing school. Somebody started PA school, and then three or four people left just for other jobs in different areas of the hospital, mainly due to like stress, and they were like kind of not old, but older. They've been doing it for a long time, and they're kind of, with all the COVID stress added into the emergency department, they were kind of burnt out. So that leaves us with substantially less staff at my position than usual, which means they activated on-call shifts. So you can sign up to be on call for automatic time and a half if you get called in, regardless of whether or not it would be overtime for you. So long story short, I signed up for 2 shifts a week, basically, of that. And so I've been working like every day that I'm not free, that I had free, more or less, besides Thursdays for the podcast. So I got my first paycheck for that, and it was today, which was fantastic. I think I'll keep doing that going forward. Maybe not quite so intensely, but because I want to have free time to actually play video games. But that was pretty intense. Outside of work things, on last Sunday, after we recorded the podcast, I had I played in a paintball tournament outside of the typical paintball tournament series that I've been playing in, called Foxball, which is at Fox 4, which is a pretty, I'd call it, legendary paintball field that's closing after this season. So that's run by Dave Painter. It's the field up in Upton, Massachusetts, that was the home field for a pro team, Upton 187 crew, for many years. Dave, the owner, wants to retire and get in his RV and drive around the country and play like big woods ball scenarios, basically. Which, if you don't know what paintball is, I might be just speaking gibberish. But he's just gonna retire and be just go around the country and travel, which is pretty cool. But he was giving out commemorative engraved pint glasses, which is pretty sweet. That say like Fox 4 2001 to 2020, thanks for the memories, and then Foxball, which is the name of the X-Ball style tournament form that he has. I think one of you put in the chat, which marker does he use? Is referring to me or Dave Painter?
No, you. I was curious on, do you like a pump action? I used to have one. I actually still do, I think. And or do you go full auto, semi-auto? You have a special brand or model,
So I'm happy you asked. So the paintball format I play is called X-Ball. So it's 5 versus 5 on a turf field, typically, with like those inflatable bunkers that are all symmetrically laid out. So I use a Planet Eclipse Geo 3.5, which is an electronic marker. But all of the markers in an X-Ball style format have to be able to shoot 10.5 balls a second consistently on a ramp style fire mode. So what that means is you have to pull the trigger. The first 3 shots are semi-auto, and then after that you have to maintain, I think it's like 4 trigger pulls a second, and the gun will ramp up to 10.5 balls a second. So you're basically continuously shooting 10.5 balls a second, which is pretty substantial. It's a lot of paintballs. I know a few points this weekend at the tournament. I shot my hopper in 9 pods, so in 1 point. And so I should say a point is what you'd think of as like a game or a match, right? So it's 5v5 go. Try to shoot all the opponents, and then once you're done, that's 1 point. So however long that takes in the game time comes off of the game clock, which is a total of 12 minutes. So it's 12 minutes of game time, and you can have an unlimited number of points within that game time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting. We did okay. We came in 6th, but we had never ever played that layout before, which is a big deal. And all the teams there had practiced it, many weekends prior to. It was cool. It was just something to get our team together after our sort of regular season was over, and to get a chance to play at this field. That's a big piece of sort of paintball history before it closes, and you can't do that anymore. So it was fun, but it was definitely interesting, the vibe there compared to Matt's Outback, where I typically play down in Connecticut. I don't know where in the country you guys are from, but here in Massachusetts, cannabis is legal, so folks were imbibing themselves between matches, which was definitely out of the ordinary for some of my Connecticut-based paintball teammates. They were like, "Oh my God, you can just smoke here!" I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's Massachusetts. Nobody cares. It's like smoking a cigarette." So that was like a little bit jarring for some of them to see, like, at a paintball field, and then folks are just you're drinking beers in between matches as well, that's a fairly standard issue. But it was just a really cool, relaxed atmosphere, which was nice as compared to something more serious and just strictly competitive. But I had a good weekend for sure. In a gaming failure big time. So that weekend when I played Foxball, was the weekend for the Call of Duty beta, and I had it downloaded, ready to rock on Thursday. And I was not able to play Thursday. I had some different stuff going on at the house. And then Friday I worked all day. Saturday I got up and was just doing stuff to my car to prep to go to have to drive like an hour and a half to paintball, and then I was prepping for paintball, and then I had to go to bed early because I had to leave my house by 5:30 the next day to drive to this thing. Long story short, I was not able to play any of the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War beta like I had intended to, but I was rather busy with other things. So anywho, that's basically it for me. I know Marcus has been definitely picking up my slack in the gaming sector. So Marcus, how's it going? And what have you been up to?
I will tell you that I have been playing a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
A shit ton of games. So, in Star Wars: The Old Republic, Death Star Troopers actually played on Tuesday night for a lockout. So we cleared the first two bosses of Hard Mode Gods from the machine, so we could start on Sunday on the next boss that we needed to beat. Then we beat the third boss one time, so we're going to go back to see if we can do it really quick and then move on to the fourth boss, which is Skyva.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing Genshin Impact. Like I mentioned earlier, it is a complete sandbox game. It's a clone of Breath of the Wild, but what it does better than Breath of the Wild, it doesn't limit your weapon use. So every sandbox game has something to slow your progression down. In this game, it's, because it's a free to play game, there's resin that you have to get in order to upgrade stuff, and that you have to grind for, where the weapons in this game don't break like in Breath of the Wild. And personally, I really enjoy that more, because I don't like to be limited on, if I'm in the middle of a fight and I'm hitting an enemy and all of a sudden my sword breaks and I die. Well, that sucks. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Nobody. And that's where honestly where Breath of the Wild really turned me off, because I really enjoyed the concept of Breath of the Wild, but the whole like weapon thing, that I guess I just wasn't a fan of it. And the dash in Genshin is really, really good, because I just found it to be more fluid than Breath of the Wild. The art style is a cell shaded game, anime versus, whatever you want to call Breath of the Wild. The other big thing is I finally beat Fallen Order.
Finally.
And I'm just, yeah, and spoilers, well, it's been out for a year, so sorry everybody. I didn't watch any news on it. I didn't know anything. And it was like the Inquisitor's training facility or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, okay, I've been chasing Second Sister this whole time.
Yep.
And I got to the area where this holocron was, where it was the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it. And then, so Second Sister came out, and I died a shit ton of times because she is legit.
Yep.
But the magical part happened. I thought she was going to die, and she was alive. And my first mate on the ship, I guess, and former Jedi, was like busted in the room, and she was like, "You don't have to be on the dark side." And I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 Disney it up. And what was crazy is Second Sister, got really like nervous, and she was like frozen.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you heard, and I'm like, no fucking way. Because the whole time I've been playing this game, I'm like, listen, there's a Jedi on the loose, and where the hell is Darth Vader?
Yeah, because that's what he's doing, is hunting Jedi.
Right,
in that
exactly.
time
Well,
period. Yeah.
right. So I'm just like, where the hell is he? Well, sure as shit, here he comes. And what was awesome is the scene where he says, "You failed me, Inquisitor. See you later." He disposes of Second Sister. But what was crazy is you learn all of these moves in this game and you think you're bad to the bone, and then you come up and you go into it, and Darth Vader's like light years past you,
Oh
and he
yeah.
just stops you in your tracks, throws you around, and you're like, okay, I gotta run.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I ran like hell. I beat the game. They definitely left it open for a second one. I just hope if they do a second one, they take their time with it so that the story is
It makes sense and it's fluid and
correct.
yeah.
So, in SOTOR news, game update 6.1.4 is live. Or maybe it's 6.1.5.6, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20.
It's a
So-
big ol' update.
Oh my God, it's so ridiculous. Just give us the new story. But, anyways, we're going to give you the highlights and talk to a little bit about everything going on in game, because BioWare has given us more of what we don't need. Let's go through it, Nick.
So, they've got some conquest changes. Several quality of life changes have been made to the conquest system, including rebalanced points, new objectives, and level bracket changes. More details in the conquest section down below.
So basically, so we did some things last night in game, and I watched the conquest points. It used to be if you give your companion a gift, you get conquest points. You pick your nose, conquest points. You flex your muscles, you get conquest points. Now they've made it a little harder. You need to stick both fingers in both nostrils and pick your nose, conquest points. So what they've done is basically they rebalanced it. They've made you do more, but you're still, it's like shuffling numbers. I don't know what to explain it. How to explain it, I should say. You have like they've just mixed it up to where like when you do certain events, you're still getting the conquest points, but it's almost like it builds to get to where you need to go. It was just them shifting numbers. I think it's good because right now the way Conquest works is if you sign in and you play for a couple hours, you get your Conquest for the week. And maybe they try to make it that easy, but before, I mean, you had to do a lot to hit Conquest for the week, in comparison to what it is now.
Right.
What's next, Nick?
So, we've got some new augments. A new tier of legendary quality augments at item rating 300 have been added to the game. A new cybertech schematic used in the process of crafting the new augments can be picked up at your local trainer. It requires 2 new building materials obtainable from Master Mode operations and ranked PvP.
Stupidest idea ever.
So you can only get them in the 2 most challenging modes of the game.
Okay, so this is not a popular thought in the community.
Yeah.
But here's my opinion. Sorry, I'm fixing my comfy new chair. Okay. This is a false grind for, I call it a stretch content. So they're not close to releasing the next update. So instead of releasing that, they've given us a false grind for something that does not matter. And what I mean by that is it's dumb. It's dumb as dog shit. So, and again, what they've done is they've made the top tier of players,
Top 1%, 2%
top
of people
one,
that play or whatever.
top whatever percent of players able to be rich. So basically, they're enlisting, like in a way, their own capitalism. I believe that these new augments, if they're going to make these augments, they should make them available for everybody to earn. Let me give you an example. If you do master mode ops, you get 3 of them, the 3 of the new material. If you do hard mode ops, you get 2 of the material. If you do story mode ops, you get 1 of the material. If you do regular PvP, you get 1 material. If you do ranked PvP, you get 3 materials. And The reason why I say all this is because people say that you don't need the augments. But anybody who plays this game and is a casual player are going to want the gear. They're going to want it because there's nothing else to do in this game. Everybody can say, "Oh, there's plenty of stuff to do. Go do the class stories, go do this, go do that." But at the end of the day, once you do all that, you want to keep playing the game, make it available for all players to get. So what they've done is they've created these augments and they've made it really hard to obtain. So the materials that they get to get them are harder to get, and you need to be a top elite player to get them. Mm-hmm. So once you get them, you're going to sell them on the GTN for a shit ton of credits. And the people who just want the best because they have nothing else to do in the game are going to pay this ridiculous money. And again, it's going to make the rich get richer, or the top players in the game stay uber rich,
right,
versus the casual players who keep this game going. They're the real people who pay for this game. They're stuck spending. It's just a bad idea on BioWare's. I think I've been bitching about this since the day one when I heard about it. Yeah. And yes, this is where I am really negative about the game. I don't like false grinds. When they did OSIS, that was a false grind to stretch the content because the expansion wasn't ready. So they made everybody grind one planet to get the best gear in the game. And here's the thing. Everybody could get the best gear in the game. Everybody.
Yep.
And for me, that I like. I like everybody to be able to get the best gear, and people in here come the elitists going, but if you're doing story mode ops, or you don't need the best gear. But why shouldn't they be able to grind for it just like you at a slower pace? What you're doing is creating you're dividing the player base because you're saying you're not good enough to get these new things. So tough shit. If you want them, you're going to pay a ridiculous amount of money to get them. I don't believe that that's how a game should be balanced at all.
I think that's fair to say.
Yes, I'm really down on this. And honestly, they're giving us something that the game doesn't need. They could have done without this. 100%.
Yeah.
This game we didn't ask or need new augments. Nightmare players are clearing Nightmare ops, and ranked PvP players are doing their PvP. Instead of doing this, do a real class balance. Or something that they need. I just think it's a false grind for no reason. And I think it sucks, but it's writing on the wall that they're not ready to release any of the next stuff that's coming. So instead of saying, hey guys, we're not ready, good luck, keep going, let's create something stupid and make it so it's really hard to get. Moving on.
So they also added a new in-game event called the Feast of Prosperity that we've mentioned a few times in the show. This new in-game event is now live, so help Grebog the Abundant and Duba the Magnanimous restore the cartel's influence during the 3 weeks of the event. Each week is a new story mission. Each week, a new story mission will unlock to progress the event storyline, leading to the cinematic climactic choice during the third and final week: Grebog or Duba. This event will initially run from October 20th to November 10th. So it started 2 days ago.
Yeah, so I did not do it yet. I was going to do it tonight, but the show has run a little long.
Yep.
So I will probably end up doing it Saturday or Sunday. Because I got to do it before the week's over. So then when the next part of the story is unlocked, I'm already caught up. Maybe I'll play it on lunch in the shop. I can't do that.
Yeah, because I feel like if I play a game at work, I'm done afterwards, you know?
No, not me, because there's going to be saws going. I want to enjoy it. Like, I could do it at lunch, but like, anyway. Everybody that I've talked to says this is awesome. I'm super excited for a new style of
story, kind of.
Yeah, event story. I like that. I like that it's it's the Thanksgiving season. I like that it's going to be once a year this comes through. I like this idea. I really, really do.
This is cool, and I like competitions too. It's like
Right. And this is hopefully going to get you to come. Well, Nick is totally coming back to the game because friend of the show, Al,
Oh yeah.
is
The ultimate
playing Sotor.
Al,
got a
can I
dope-
just say, can I get so yes, Al has his new computer set up finally. He's downloaded SOTOR, he's getting involved. And I think Marcus and Al are probably the two number one most vicious shit talkers I've ever met in my entire life. So the berating that I know I'm going to get to come play with them is unlike any you've ever imagined in your entire life. So I'm definitely going to be playing SOTOR with them in sometime very soon.
Well, what's going to be fun is once, I'm going to help him level, and he is a Sith assassin, like he's a sorcerer.
Yeah.
So, he is what I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. It's that if Al gets the bug on the game, he'll be hooked. All I got to do is get him into it, and then it's on.
Yeah.
And then what'll be fun is if us three go do some flashpoints, and that's what I'm personally looking forward to.
Me too. To be able to like clear
because,
some
like,
cool stuff together.
Yeah, just like play the game with you guys and do that. Like we don't need to do operations, but it's going to be fun to have you back and Al, and yes, we will talk so much shit to you.
Yeah, it's impressive.
already on its way.
I know. It's in the mail. The check is in the mail. So the last item in the highlight section is the legacy ignore. Players will now be able to ignore Players will now be able to ignore a character's entire legacy. This option will also block those players from entering the blocker's stronghold and override the possession of any type of stronghold key owned by the ignored player. The legacy ignore list is shared across a player's legacy. So that's cool. So like if somebody's harassing you, you can block every tune that they possibly have, which is nice.
Correct. Yeah. So like that one time that I did ranked PvP because I really wanted that furious lightsaber that has like a trail that when you run it like trails behind you
Like a comet.
And yes. And I was like, I'm going to do ranked PvP this year. And I did one match and somebody berated me so much. And then even like, okay, I stopped playing the match was over. I left the queue and I just went and did my own thing. This person continued to whisper me. And I remember the comments were like, you're the biggest piece of shit on the planet. You should just die. Like, I don't know how you could be proud of yourself. Your mother isn't because you're the worst person on the planet. I'm like, dude, it was one match.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like, dude, did you ever like Call of Duty on the Xbox 360? It was awful, but like when you were done with the game, like there was some crazy shit talking going on constantly, but when the match was over, it was over. Nobody bothered you afterwards,
right? Yeah. That's
so
insane. So this is
so
this
I
is
do
good to
so I
everybody.
really do like this legacy ignore button because it's going to. What it's going to do is be like, fuck you. I don't need to ever talk to you again. And what it's going to do too is like, if you're in a ranked PvP match or doing something and somebody's super toxic and you ignore them, you don't ever have to listen to them again.
It's perfect. This is definitely
great.
great quality
Thank
of life
you.
increase.
Thank you for that. Now, okay. Nick, are you ready?
Yep.
They have released
Dun, dun, dun.
the Mandalorian armor set.
What? They
Yep.
did?
You know the fork gun?
Yeah.
They released that.
Oh my
and
god.
if that gets a kill shot,
it
it disintegrates the body.
Oh my god.
Nick, you like
Wait a minute.
Like,
So
do
I need to make a bounty hunter to get that?
I was just gonna say, well, I think a bounty hunter is the one who's gonna use it.
Yeah.
But like, and you get his pistol.
Okay.
Like, Nick,
However much that costs in the cartel market, I'm going
but
to
you should totally play the bounty hunter story because it is pretty good. Like it was really good. Like I did it, and I really enjoyed it. And like, I didn't mention in what I've been doing. Like I've been playing the smuggler, and I am enjoying it. But still, to this day, I'm telling you, if anybody out there has an idea on how to make the time traveling between locations, like go here and kill these people, but it's like a 5-minute
Walk.
mount ride,
Yeah.
please tell me what to do to keep me awake.
Yeah.
And I'm not being rude because like the story is so good, but it's the parts between the sections where you're just driving through a vast nothing. It kills me.
Yeah, that drives me crazy too.
It drives me crazy. And then like you get your piece of story and you're like, oh, this is fucking awesome. And then it's like,
20
now I
minutes of travel.
go back to where you were. And you're like, fuck.
20 minutes later. And more cool story. Cool.
Exactly. So, and I know people are like, oh, this is an MMO. That's what it's about. No, it's not.
It's not. You can
Like,
do that without having 10
boom, boom, boom.
minutes of
But
you
anyways,
walking through nothing.
So I will, I wish I linked the picture of it in the show notes because that would have helped. But
Yeah.
dude, the armor set is pretty fucking sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that has happened. Sorry.
That was an epic yawn.
Oh yeah, wicked. Well, it's because we
It's good.
Anyway, so the other thing is what was I gonna say? Fuck. I forgot. I wish I had the pictures of it. So they have changed something
Mm-hmm.
in a class change. So as a tank, you can use a move and it's called a guard, right? So I could guard somebody who does maybe the highest DPS or holds the highest threat.
Mm-hmm.
And DPSs who have like a DPS class like the Jug is a tank class, but it also is a DPS. And
Okay.
you as the DPS used to be able to guard people,
Okay.
and they've basically taken that away from all the tank spec DPS classes, which kind of sucks because that changes the way, and they did it for PvP, but because PvP and PvE content is the same,
Mm-hmm.
it affects everybody around us, and it just sucks. I really want to get somebody on the show to explain to us class balance and what it like how they decide these things, and because they can't give the answer of, oh, we see that this class is overperforming or whatever, because that's a load of junk, because there's classes in the game that are very that are way overperforming and they just don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see those answers, and I really want to talk to somebody about that. It's yeah. And all of these things that they're fixing in 6.1.4, bug fixes that they've been working on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll give an example. In the Operation Dread Fortress, Gate Commander Draxus has gotten better managing his forgetfulness. He will no longer forget about returning to players after using Jetaway. So it's just bugs. So all of these bug reports they have been fixing, which is great. I think that these bug reports are good, but at the same time,
It's just bug reports. Yeah.
right. It's just bug reports. So next episode, I will be able to tell you guys more about the Feast of Prosperity,
Yes.
and hopefully Nick will be telling us about the Feast of Prosperity too, because he played Overcooked 2 for a while, and I think that's what the base of this game is.
Oh, it's like literally cooking.
Like,
stuff?
oh yeah, like I don't know if you're cooking or just like delivering plates from the kitchen, but it's like the overcooked idea.
That sounds
So anyways, in AIE news,
awesome. Mega.
okay, you go there first.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. You first. What you got?
So last night
Yeah.
was a really special night for us. Well, special and sad. Jana,
Yep.
who some might have known as Arv, passed away last week,
Oh,
or
that's
that
awesome.
we found out. Yeah. And so we hosted a memorial night, and we did it on Wednesday because she created she created the sup team, Sith with unlimited power, in AIE, and it was one of the longest running, or is one of the longest running raid teams there is. And so it was their raid night. So we decided that, that was my first raid team. Jana recruited me.
Right.
I am in AIE because of Jana. Well, because when I first started, I was in another guild, and that guild was nice, but the team would make pokes at fun of me. Oh, look at everybody's in AIE except this guy. And I
Right.
did it for about 3 weeks, and then I joined the guild. I sucked it up and joined the guild. And I found out that this team was looking for somebody because of Max and Seema's podcast. But if it wasn't for Jana, I would have never joined the team. I would have never learned what Eternity Vault was and what the fall in the Soa fight, Nick,
Oh
was like.
gosh, the mega fall.
Yes, exactly. Like I would have never known what that was if it wasn't for her. And so she passed away. We found out through social media.
Yeah.
And it kind of, and so many of us have played with Jana on her team and around the guild. And she was such an awesome person. And I was lucky enough to actually meet her in real life. She came up, she was a truck driver, and she always said, I'm never coming back to New England again. I said, you'll be here. And when you do, I will make sure I'm available. And I remember it like it was yesterday. She came up and she messaged me the day before, and I said, sure, I'll be available. And Nick, as you know, my day that day was not a day that I had an hour to spare.
Right.
My day turned to shit, and I did it, but I made sure I was like, F this. She's up here. We're going to meet for lunch. Whatever I'm doing can wait because this is more important.
Right.
And I'm so happy I did because I got to meet her. I got to find out who she was as a person, and it was really special. So last night we did the memorial for her.
Mm-hmm.
We do, as everybody knows, every year we do our Summer of Love event, which is surrounded by our Remembrance Day,
Mm-hmm.
where we remember our friends who have become one with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And this hit home for all of us, so we decided to do the memorial service. Everybody got together on Alderaan in the Durin Mountains, and everybody kind of just talked about her and what she did for the guild and how she affected so many of us. It was awesome. And then I, along with the sub team, so the current sub team has 8 people, obviously, and then we got 8 other people to come, and we did a 16-man ops run in her honor, which it was really nice. It was our way of saying, "May the Force be with you."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she took so many of us to Eternity Vault for the first time. And I'll never forget the first time I saw an operation. Like, I think I called you, Nick, the next day and was like, dude, I did the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
in
you
my life.
you 100% did.
And you were like, yeah. And I'm like, it was the most amazing thing. Like, I've never experienced something like that in my life in any game I've ever played.
Yeah.
And that was because of her.
Right.
So, what else is happening this week, Nick?
So you got a little preview as to what I was going to say, but Mega is Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Imperial side and the pub side. If you don't remember, Mega is the monthly Epic Guild activity, and that is tomorrow, right?
That is October 23rd. So you're listening to this either on the day it comes out or the following days.
Yes. So Friday, October 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern time, the correct time. We're doing Mega, which includes, but is not limited to, a spooky costume contest, the conquering of the Fleet Datacron, the legendary Fleet Datacron, and also open world PvP.
So what the Fleet Datacron takes a while to set up. So in the process of it, we're going to all get together and we're going to do a spooky contest. So wear your scariest or spookiest costumes. And after that, one team will be breaking off to set up the fleet datacron. Because of the Steam launch, we've had a lot of new players join the guild, and a lot of people have been asking for the fleet datacron. So we decided that that would be a perfect thing. And while that is going on, there's some open world PvP achievements you can get. Kill 5 people in open PvP. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a certain area somewhere, and a few of us are going to switch to the pub side. A few of us are going to stay on the, or go to the M side or stay on the M side, and we're going to kill each other, and we're going to get some achievements. And I'm really looking forward to it because I don't ever do open world PvP. So it's going to be a really fun activity for us. And then in STO's news,
Fleet Night is Sundays. Sorry, Fleet Night, which is their sort of version of mandatory fun night, or just like group guild get together evening, is Sundays at 8:30 p.m. with Dent.
friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Dent, runs Fleet Night on Sundays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And if all this sounds fun to you, go to aie-guild.org, get the Discord information, ask for a guild invite, whether you play SWTOR, Star Trek Online, any of the other games. And honestly, what I'm realizing is, like, it doesn't matter what game you play. Somebody in AIE has played it. And what I found more about AIE, just come, like, the Discord is so full with so many different things that just come and say hi.
Right.
And, you know, you may find somebody's talking about Diablo 3 or Genshin Impact or Animal Crossing, and you can have a conversation with it. And it might not even be a game that has the guild in it, but you're going to find people who are like-minded, like yourself, that want to play or are playing a game. And I have one more disclaimer. Again, November 10th.
Yep.
The second greatest book ever to be released, which I have no idea, is coming out. A certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back. But the other thing is Call of Duty Cold War is coming out.
Oh my God.
Nick and I will be playing that at launch.
Oh, yeah.
We will be setting up the AIE clan.
Yep.
So if you are going to be playing Call of Duty Cold War, please get a hold of myself or Nick. And if Nick doesn't answer, just keep pinging him on Discord or Twitter, because he's terrible and he doesn't answer it.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm just calling your bullshit out.
Oh, I know. It was a.
But
it was
no,
a
seriously, everybody, Call of Duty's coming, and we may start off in like the Nomads channel for our voice chat, but we may end up getting our own Call of Duty voice channel, so we can just squad up and play
dominate
Call of Duty. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. As we said in the last episode, there's so many good games coming out from now until essentially Christmas. And the one game I'm really, really, really looking forward, well, there's 2 games I'm really looking forward to, and one of them is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Me too.
I'm really looking forward to that. And then the other one is Dirt 5, but that's just me. Nick, you got to go to the bathroom?
I always do, so we'll be right back.
Jeez, Nick, hurry up. We're trying to finish this podcast.
And we're back. So today we're discussing Star Trek Online. So obviously Marcus and I have not played Star Trek Online, or at least not a whole lot.
That is not true.
Sorry,
that is not true.
Marcus has played Star Trek Online. I have not. But we have 2 people who have played a whole boatload of Star Trek Online and love it. So first things first, I suppose, give us some broad strokes about what the game's like.
Well, first, I'm shaking my head in disappointment in you.
Well, I did go through earlier about how I wasn't able to play any games this week. So it's not that I, through lack of trying. But the head shaking
takes priority.
But the head shaking most definitely is appropriate in this situation.
Well, first of all, I'm Nikodas, and I've played
Grebog still.
I think I forgot to introduce myself earlier, so I figured I better say that now.
Oh, it's quite all right.
I have played Star Trek Online since the beta. I was lucky enough to get a beta tester invite into that game, and right off the bat, just before the beta test ended, they offered a lifetime subscription. So you paid Then it was $240. And from then on, you didn't have to pay a subscription, and they gave you a bunch of in-game items and a stipend and all kinds of fun stuff. So I bought that right off the bat, and I have been an off and on again player for the past 10 years, I think it is, maybe going on 11 years now. So I've been in the game since the very, very, very beginning. That was before it went free to play and everything. But the long and short of it is Star Trek Online is a sci-fi RPG based in the Star Trek universe. But the game actually explains itself very well. You don't have to be a Star Trek fan to enjoy the game, and to me, that's a big thing. That's how you get new players involved, and you get people to be excited about it. Now, being based in the Star Trek universe, a lot of the races that you can play are based in that franchise. There are many, many different canon races that you can play. But it's worth noting that there is also an alien creator that you can use to create almost anything that you can think of, except for tails. There are no tails in the alien creator. But you can use that to emulate races from your imagination or other shows that are out there. Grebog and I did an episode on our podcast where, or video podcast, where we highlighted that, and I tried to recreate a Yatja. And for those who don't know, a Yatja is one of the Predator aliens from the Predator franchise. I had moderate success with it, but so you can certainly use your imagination to create whatever you want. As far as the ships, there again, the ships are primarily from all the different Star Trek franchises out there. There are a few ships that were created by Cryptic Studios themselves, and they've even adopted some ships into the game that were created by people who play the game. The new model of the Enterprise was one of those. They did a contest where they had a bunch of people draw what they would want for the new Enterprise. They picked a winner, and then they put it into the game. So that was pretty cool. Going on about the customization, it offers the most customizable options out of any MMO that I have ever played. Your character, your ship, like I just went over, but even the heads-up display, the very controls of the game are completely customizable. There are just dozens and dozens of options. So if you're a player who likes options, there you go. The game.
I do have a couple questions for you.
Sure, go for it.
So when you talk about customization and the level of detail of customization, so obviously I play Star Wars: The Old Republic, and what I really like about SOTOR is the UI. I can do whatever I need to do to it. I can get rid of things that I don't need. I can add things. I can change the layout. So I use an MMO mouse. I can change the layout so the keys are kind of look like my MMO mouse. So if I'm looking at the screen, I can kind of move my thumb to where I need it to go. And I really enjoy that, right?
Okay.
And then one more option is when you say menu options, what does that mean?
Well, you just open the menu, and there's just tons of things in there, from the color scheme of your HUD to the typical things like your view distance and whatnot. You can change the follow camera. So you can focus on who you're fighting, or you can focus on your character, or you can just have a free range option where you just move the camera wherever you want. There's just a ton of options in there for how you want to play the game. You can totally rearrange the HUD. There are options in there for adding things, subtracting things, rearranging to your heart's content. The default screen, mostly I play on the default. It's very standardized. You've got a mini map in the upper right hand corner. Your chat box is in the lower left. Your interaction bars are along the bottom side, and that's pretty standard across the genre. But you can have up to 10 bars on your screen. You can place them wherever you want. Then there's some additional bars if you're in a special ship that has like extra features. It typically has its own smaller bar off to the side. You can move that wherever you want. So it is completely customizable.
See, that's sweet. I do like hearing games that are customizable. because whether or not you're playing an MMO or an action game, and you can customize it the way you want it, it allows you to be more immersed in the game. What game am I thinking of? Almost like Red Dead Redemption, right, Nick? Like
Yeah.
you can pick like whatever he's wearing, you can do that. And if you feel like him wearing, no shirt and just some slacks, you can do that. Whatever it
However you want
makes
to
you
make your
feel
yeah
like you want to feel like a cowboy, or you want to feel like
like
you're
a
in the Starfleet or on in the imp side, best side. You can customize your characters to be that. For me, that's what allows me to be immersed in the game, and then the story takes you to the next level.
I agree. Yeah, one of the biggest things for me is immersion into the game. That I really prefer games that provide a lot of that. Like I think that's one of the reasons why I really connected with Red Dead Redemption 2, because of those features. You can choose your horse, you can choose your outfit is like all kinds of crazy designs. You can customize your guns too. Like besides like what specific guns you use, you can customize the guns themselves to have different metals, have different finishes, have different details. You can customize what you're eating and drinking, your camp, like
Right.
so all kinds of different things like that. So hearing that Star Trek Online has all these customizable options, I can definitely see why it has such a large player base, because I'm sure tons of people like me gravitate towards that customization to pump up the immersion, so that you feel like you're traveling across the galaxy as this character.
Now, I will say weapons customization is not in the game yet. There are a ton of different weapons that you can equip your character with, so I'm sure you can find something that will fit, the theme that you're trying to go with. But as far as like going in and actually changing the weapon itself, that is not in there yet.
Yeah.
I would not put it past them to do that down the line.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think that
So-
was
Go ahead, Nick.
that's the first. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is the first game that I found that had that option to custom. Oh, I think SWTOR to a degree you can customize your lightsabers, but in Fallen Order you can literally customize your lightsaber hilt and everything.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think between Fallen Order and Red Dead Redemption 2 are the first two games where you could really get into the details of your weapons. But,
Well, unless you go back to the Call of Duty games. I mean, you can put
that's true too. I forgot
different
about them.
skins on those, or different sights or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, Division 2 even has that, where you can get different skins for your weapons and that. The most like Star Trek Online, let's say if you use phaser beams and you want a red, or I should say a beam array, and you want a red versus an orange or a blue or something, you might have to change the damage type or the specific. They have versions that are kind of two types in one beam array, so you could get that through one of those methods, and you can get the different colorations. I know some people specifically build their ship's beam array setup off of the color scheme they want for their beams to be going.
Well, that's pretty cool.
They recently added, specifically for the phasers, which is typically associated with Starfleet, they have added in pulse phasers, which is a entirely different aesthetic to it. They're still beam arrays, so any ability that increases damage with a beam array will still work on them. Abilities that affect beam arrays will still work, but what you see when your ship fires is, instead of a steady stream, it's a pulse effect, and that's pretty cool. Different sound effect too.
And moving into the combat, seeing that we're talking about phasers, is it a tab target combat system? Is it an action combat system? What is the combat system for Star Trek Online?
Depends on how you want to do it. Honestly, there is what they call the MMO targeting setup that you can go with, or if you want more the first person or third person shooter style, you can actually use that, and you will have a target reticle on your screen, and where you point, you will shoot. So you can switch between the two depending upon which one you prefer. You can, if you use the MMO style, you can click on somebody, or you can tab target them, or it will automatically, when you try to shoot, it will automatically target the closest person to you. So I do love the fact that I'm not like, for Star Trek Online on the ground stuff, I typically don't use the target reticle to shoot things. I typically go with the MMO style. So, but in space combat, that is pretty much more the MMO style targeting.
It's worth noting that you can actually switch between that play style on the fly with a single button press.
Wow, that's pretty sweet. That's really sweet because sometimes sometimes you just want to aim, right, and not hit tab and just smash all 1 through 9 or whatever your keys are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Drag your face across the keyboard, as you like to say.
Well, yeah. Yep. Face roll. Excuse me. Now, what I guess for me, and this is full transparency because I'm a complete wuss, I cannot play flying games. So I get crazy motion sickness when I start spinning in circles and like have to shoot like in squadrons. I couldn't do it because I'm a wuss. So building on that, Star Trek as a franchise is built on kind of two premises. So you have your person, your captain, or your first mate or whoever on the ship that's a person working on the ship, and then you have phase 2 of the show, or the premise of it is your ship. So from the way I understand it, and I never got that far in the game, you actually get starships that you get to fly around, like you actually fly them. You're not just flying from place to place. The computer's doing that for you. You actually fly it, correct?
That is correct. So you have your character, and then you have your ship, which is basically another character. Both of them you have to find gear for, you have to equip. Now your skills are based on your captain, but you have skills that affect your ship as well. And again, you can get into different play styles and the different way of doing it. For example, you have to remember, unlike Squadrons, since you brought that up, Squadrons is a flight sim. You're in the cockpit, you're zooming around, you're high paced, you're blowing things up in your face. In Star Trek Online, you're talking about a large ship. This is much more of a Navy combat game than it is a flight sim. So the ships are big. They move a little bit slower. Turning, your turn rate is kind of a thing, with larger ships turning slower than smaller ships.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Well, that's what you get for flying cruisers all the time.
All right, so now I have to know where's the inside joke here, and what is a cruiser?
So there are 3 types of ships in the game. You have your escorts, you have your science ships, and you have your cruisers. Your escorts tend to be the smaller, more maneuverable, faster ships. They were originally designed to carry cannons instead of the phaser beams to deal higher damage in burst. And then your cruisers are your bigger, slower moving, stronger shield, stronger hull. They're the ones that are designed to broadside with a bunch of phaser beam arrays originally. Now, over the years, things have mixed and matched a little bit, and you have subclasses of each clip or each ship. But in the base of it, that's what they were designed to be. And science vessels fall somewhere in the middle, with them also using like exotic weapons or energy types to deal additional damage.
To give you an example for an escort, think of the Defiant from Deep Space Nine. That is an escort. Typically for like the Next Generation, the Enterprise is a cruiser. It's a much bigger ship. And they did have science vessels in the shows. I can't think of one that like the Rhode Island. Well, Voyager, yeah, that was definitely a science vessel. But they do. I think they did have done a great job on inertia, essentially while flying. You can feel your ship like inertia. Like the bigger the ship, the slower you're going to turn, because it's hard to get who knows how many tons and tons of mass to go a different direction than straight.
Sure.
Voyager was certainly a science ship. They talk about that in the show, as a matter of fact, where it was more designed for scientific study and whatnot. Over the course of the show, it kind of becomes almost more of a warship or battle cruiser. But when it starts out, you're talking about, even small ships can threaten it, can deal quite a bit of damage. And you see them work around that through crew skills or teaming up with other races. But a lot of times they come up with some exotic solution or some special weapon that does exactly what they need them to do. And in the game, that is very much what science vessels are designed to do. They don't have a whole lot of weapon hard points or weapon slots. So instead, you use crew abilities to supplement your damage output, and it works really well.
Sure. Now, okay, Nick and I are intrigued, right? And we are like, you know what? We're going to play this game. Where can I find you guys to do that?
Well, I'm going to let Grebog take this because the best way to find us is through our fleet, and he is the fleet master.
Well, no, I'm one of 2 fleet directors for the AIE fleet. The best way to get into the fleet is to join aie-guild.org and go to the join the Discord and the STO channel. Say, hey, I've started playing, or I would like to start playing. Can you help me? And we will definitely help you. The people in AIE are amazing and very helpful. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware of that.
Yes, indeed.
You know,
Yeah.
we accept everybody. We don't care. And if you want to play KDF, like I said earlier, we have a KDF fleet, Klingon Defense Force, just for a reminder for those that don't remember.
You know, I'm going to break in here for just a second because we've talked about that a couple times, but we haven't really explained it. So when STO first launched, it fell into the red versus blue category that a lot of MMOs kind of fall into these days. Thank you, WoW. And the blue faction was Starfleet, and the red faction was the Klingons. As time has gone on, they have introduced other factions, but that main red versus blue is still there. So if you are part of the Klingon faction, you cannot team up with Federation players except in random dungeons. And communication is not impossible. The 2 factions can talk to each other, but it's you got to be in the same social zone, which is kind of a rarity. So that's why he keeps saying if you want to play KDF side or Klingon Defense Force, we have a separate fleet for that because Klingon players cannot join a Federation fleet.
Right. And what about if I wanted to be a Borg?
There are liberated Borg race that you can you have to buy to unlock, or do you have to pay the lifetime? I'm not sure. This
That's
is
a
what I always
lifetime.
forget. Okay,
The
so you-
liberated Borgs are lifetime, and that's should mention that too. You can still purchase a lifetime sub. They do sales periodically throughout the year, but the base price is $300, and you get all the benefits of somebody like me who's been a lifetimer for 10 years. But that unlocks the liberated Borg. Now, playing a full-on, still part of the hive mind Borg, you can't do that at the moment. You can have crew members that are that way. But playing a character that way, you can't do at this time. You can fly a Borg ship, however.
The
Oh,
cube.
cool.
It's
no,
the
not
cube.
There's a liberated Borg ship that they showed, I think, in Voyager initially, that they have brought into the game.
No, it was next gen. It was Lore.
Oh, okay.
When Lore took over the Borg Collective, he had a different ship, and it's that ship that's in there.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, this is a question for me because this is how I play MMOs. I play MMOs to get to endgame. So, what is the endgame in Star Trek Online?
Well, while there aren't raids per se, there are fleet of there are basically there's sort of dungeons you can do, and they have multiple difficulties, especially certain ones that are based off of a reputation. And so if you want to do some of the harder core stuff, you have to gear up some. I would say the reputations are kind of an end game thing of getting the reputations up, because they all offer gear and stuff that will help you in those harder dungeons. But yeah, we call them TFOs, and as what team
Task Force Operations.
Task Force Operation. I was like, I always forget the name of it. It's just TFO to me.
They used to be
But
STFs.
yeah. But yeah, to get into the harder ones and do well in them and not blow up constantly, you essentially, you have ways to do that, but it's mostly just the 5-man style. They haven't introduced any fleet things, or like, oh hey, here's a big thing, you go grab 10 people or go grab 15 people or whatever. Though you can do some of these with a specific group if you want. So you can create a team and specifically hit certain like TFOs and do the hardcore, the hardest difficulty, and see what you can do.
It is certainly a challenge. There's 3 difficulties, and as you go up, the difference in challenge rating is vastly noticeable. I just recently started playing on the moderate difficulty, and it's a huge change. You can also earn yourself injuries to your captain or damage to your ship, which are basically debuffs that are permanent until you visit a doctor or shipyard and get things repaired. So it adds a slight bit of realism to it.
Okay. When
The
you say
answer-
damage, wait. So when you say damage to the ship, so if you fly into X planet and you're flying it and there's an enemy that's there, they can attack your ship and your ship can get damaged and
Well,
essentially die and blow up.
yeah, so you'll have your hull points, your hit points, and your shield points on top of that. So if all that gets depleted, then your ship will visually explode. When you respawn, if you're playing on a higher difficulty, you will respawn with a debuff, and the debuff will be listed on your character sheet on your heads-up display as damage, and it's usually some sort of debuff, like maybe your shields are only working at 80%, or your engines are damaged and you can't turn quite as fast. Something along those lines. Which damage debuff you get is random, and it's the same as your captain on the ground. If you get into a combat situation where you're, quote, defeated, when you respawn, you'll come back with an injury. Maybe it'll be listed as like a limp. Now, you won't see your character physically limp, but your movement will be reduced until you go visit a doctor somewhere and get that healed.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Do-
that's wild.
Do you guys do any sort of fleet based or like community based events, like a mandatory fun night or anything like that?
Dent runs on Sundays at 8:30 Eastern, a fleet night, where it varies depending upon the week on what he's doing that week. Unfortunately, it happens during my D&D game, so I can't unfortunately make it. But he runs it, and from my understanding, they have quite a few people that show up and come and have fun and blow stuff up. So that's sometimes they're focused in fleet marks to help with fleet projects. Sometimes they're doing a mission to try to get a like, oh hey, don't forget this. Like a lot of missions, you can replay every mission in the game, right? So if there's been a mission that you, while leveling up, noticed had a very nice gear reward, you can replay it and it will be scaled up to the level that you replayed it at. So at max level, it could be something that you need or would really want to help your gear setup just that little bit more. But yeah, he does that on Sundays at 8:30 Eastern. I was like, I know I've looked at doing fleet events, but my schedule is so crazy that I haven't figured out how I can do it without going insane.
You run too many D&D games.
Yeah,
D&D's fun though.
It is. That's another one Grebog and I have played for a long time, usually together.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of things you guys do together, tell us about Fleet Action Report.
Well, this is new. This is actually, it was Grebog's initial suggestion, and I was reluctant to join. But now that I'm doing it, I find I really enjoy it. Um, this is something, it's not just like a live stream of us playing the game. It was important for us to do something that's more than just, oh, watch us play the game. So we detail different aspects of the game. We showed the different menu options. We showed how to do keybinds. We've talked a couple times about how to gain equipment and what equipment sets you might look um, for both ground and space combat. Uh, the big thing that we've doing a series of shows talking about the different enemies in the game and the different tactics that those enemies will use and how you can go about countering those tactics and fighting those enemies. Um, it was just important to us to have a show that is something different from most shows that are out there.
Well, I my main goal, I wanted to help people. I've constantly heard new players being like, when I get to end game or like, oh, I've hit max level. There's so much that I just don't know what to do, or heck, some of them are even like, I don't even know where to start on leveling. It's just, and so I've heard enough people, and I'm like, even when they've like, oh, I checked out that podcast, it's way over my head or whatever. I'm like, so I wanted to try to keep something simple, easy, try to help people that are new or maybe even interested in the game. Try to, my goal is to help people with it. The game is fun, and if I think people give it a try, and I think they would enjoy it as well. I mean, it's a good sci-fi and MMO, and you just don't. I don't know. It's fun. Everyone should try it,
And it's free to play.
and it's free to play.
Well, so as much as I do understand with what you're saying, but you have to understand when a game is 10 years old, there usually isn't a show that takes you from the beginning. And that is something that I do appreciate because in my MMO, which is SOTOR, we have Sotorista who basically makes the YouTube videos that basically shows you exactly what you're saying. It explains the menus, explains how to start playing the game because friend of the show, Al, just started playing SOTOR, and I was walking him through it, and he's like, I just feel lost. And I did the same thing for Nick.
Yep.
when
It
he
can
played.
definitely be daunting to start an MMO from scratch.
Right. And to have a show like the Fleet Action Report that I can look up and find and say, you know what, I really want to understand what equipment I want to use in STO. How do I do that? And your show will show me. That's a huge bonus for me because you keeping me from being frustrated may keep me playing the game.
Well, and that's the main thing. I was like, I get being overwhelmed because when I first hit max level, even then, like being so long ago, I was just like, there's just where do I start to like level up a ship and get this and that? And and Nikodas helped me through it. And now I've been helping him through things that they've reworked, like the research and development system, which is the crafting. And he didn't quite understand what the new system was like, and because it was one of the things that to him was like, I don't get it. I don't understand what they're doing here. I showed him like, okay, here are some key projects that you can do every week or every day, and it will level up your crafting, and you don't have to do anything other than that.
And then we actually put that into a show as well to share that information with others.
Yeah, because that's the whole. I was like, there's some things that the game's 10 years old, so obviously for new players there is so much content and so many options and stuff. It's easy to get overwhelmed, and I just want to try to break out bits so that way it will help people. Oh, okay, that's how that works, and oh, that's how that works, and then eventually they're like, I'm having fun playing this and not worrying about all these little bits that turn in that was the mountain before them.
My first MMO was Final Fantasy 11, and I actually created a guild there. It was called a link shell back then, but a guild in essence. And the entire purpose of that guild was to help others. We weren't an end game guild. We never were. But there are players on that game to this day that remember us. That's very much something I have carried through for all the MMOs I play. So in WoW, if somebody needs help, I'm usually one of the first ones to offer it up, whether they're in our guild or not. That's not a requirement. It's the same in STO. Like when I'm out in sector space, if I see somebody in zone chat that pipes up and says, "How do you do this?" or "I need help with that," I'm like, "Hey, look me up." So this podcast to me was just a natural extension of that goal. And if anyone is watching your show and they want to look us up, we live stream Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern, and that's twitch.tv/Grebog, Grebog. They can also just search on YouTube or Facebook for Fleet Action Report, and we should show up. Or they can email us directly at fleetactionreport@gmail.com. We may eventually move on to some other mediums there. You mentioned iTunes, but that's where we're at for now. And of course, in our shows, we update our viewers with any changes to how they can find us going forward.
And if they want to find you guys, each one of you guys, are you guys on Twitch or anything that they could find you?
The Twitch channel /
I meant
Grebog.
I meant Twitter. I'm sorry.
I am on Twitter. I don't use it that much, though. If someone starts, sending me messages and stuff, then I would be probably more active on Twitter. I am just Grebog there as well. Grebog. I did create a Fleet Action Report on Twitter just to make sure someone else didn't before we did. We haven't used it really yet. I just wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah. First, since we're sort of new, even though now we have 15 episodes, I just wanted, some of it I have been doing to try to take steps of it and like make sure I get all our bases covered before someone tries to, I don't know, sell me my own content, sort of. Hey, we see that you have that Twitter or you have this podcast. Here's the Twitter handle for $1,000 or more.
I get it. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Just to answer that question, the best way to find us if they're wanting to hit us up directly would either be Facebook or that email address. Again, that's fleetactionreport@gmail.com. And thank you guys so much for having us. It has been an absolute pleasure being here.
What are you guys talking about in here?
Find out next episode of Working Class Nerds.